Something else I wanted to talk about is, my brain, more specifically, the introspection that, how it used to happen and how it's happening right now. And as I talked about before, maybe this is all the fault of me being kind of like physically sick. Maybe that is the reason why my brain is, that is probably the reason like I fainted and I hit my head. But it's been like over a week now. It was last Wednesday, not yesterday. It was like a week and a day right now, and it really slowed down my thinking, unfortunately. But it does seem like I'm getting back to my usual self. But even before that, I think that there's been a certain regression in the way that I've been processing things. Because when I was younger, I think about, because these videos that I'm making, I've been making them. I started making them in 2016. Like the channel that they were in, like I lost that channel. It was struck down. But I, but I still have those videos. I still have those kind of like reports, because I would like basically every day I had so much to say about myself and about my condition and the human condition, and it feels like things have been simplified lately. And by lately I mean these past couple of years. I still have my videos, I still have my moments, but and sometimes like it feels like I have a lot, but it's kind of like different, because I think my musings used to be more not generic, but more general. Like they were about how humans existed, and reflected in how like I behaved and how I thought. And right now it's me, mostly just me talking about my day, which this is a journal, so like that is still like an entry, but like it's not really worthwhile. It doesn't feel like it's worthwhile an entry as one where I'm like musing about life and everything. And as I said, this particular week I have the excuse of having hit my head and still being getting back to my former self. But before that, what was like the excuse, right? Because I was doing the Enneagram videos, and they were an interesting way for me to just assess life and assess myself. But they were also like, I think compared to like how I used to be, like there was like less insight to them. I don't know if this feels like this is a bad thing. It feels like my reasoning is being simplified, and like that is not what I want. You want to deepen your thought the older you get. You want to be wiser, and I don't know if I'm becoming wiser. I'm actually able. The thing that people say, I think is actually from like a Bible verse. It's like a smart person learns from their mistakes, wise person learns from other people's mistakes. I feel like like there's more of that than there used to be. Although like I've always been very like I have to make my mistakes so I can learn. I rather make my mistakes. I think it has to do with the fact that for so long I was so repressed, and I wasn't really actually doing anything. If at least it felt like I wasn't doing anything. And naturally, like we're always doing something, so it's not like it's not that I wasn't doing something, but like it really felt like I was kind of like stuck compared to other people. There were many less choices for me to make, that I was making, that I was doing less. And so I think that I was jumping at the opportunity of like doing something, even if it was like a mistake. And that worked out for me. Like I haven't made any just tragic mistakes, or mistakes that really impact my life completely negatively. It's always like these passing ones, the trifling ones, and that works. But I don't know, because I still feel that way. I still feel that I'm doing less than people around me. I feel like it's not that's the thing. Like it's not that I'm doing less, because I'm always doing a lot. Like every day I'm making so many choices. I'm doing so many things because I need the stimuli. And but at the same time, like it feels like they are more meaningless. Like the choices I'm making, they're like kind of like empty. They don't really speak to like the big choices I have to make for my life. They don't speak to to my future. They don't speak to like they speak to my well-being, but not in a like in the long run. They're just this situations where I am, yeah, like they don't feel like as important. They don't feel like I'm making this choice. I'm choosing things for my future. I'm choosing things for the present. And the present is important, but like you have to plan for the future. You have to do things thinking of the future. And as I mentioned in the previous video, like I'm still doing those things, in my life, even though I'm starting to lose my grasp of reality and how it matters and what matters about it and what it encompasses, which is something that is never good, but it feels inevitable. Maybe it's not inevitable, but like in my life so far, it has been mostly so. But yeah, but it feels like I'm thinking, so it makes me wonder, am I thinking less? And I don't think that is necessarily the case. I think I'm thinking less about certain things. I'm like less anxious, so I'm thinking less about certain elements and certain things, and that makes my life like better. So like that's not bad. I'm okay. But like maybe I'm thinking just the same amount, but like I have like less things that I'm thinking, so I'm thinking of like less of this anxiety-inducing things, which means that there's more room for me to think about more things, but I'm not necessarily taking over that. Maybe you could also argue that this fact that I'm not as contemplative, I don't remember if that's a word, it has to do with the fact that I'm like doing better, because for so long I was trying to do better, I was trying to be a better version of myself, I was trying to learn and improve, and I was struggling to do that. And at a certain point, I did improve. So the things that used to be challenges for me, they're no longer so. I've been able to overcome them. And as a consequence, I don't have to, because it was just like me thinking about like I'm gonna do this way and that way and so on and so forth. And then by trying to do things like that, I was becoming, I was trying to be better. And finally I reached the point where I got better. The things that used to be issues for me, but I still have like so many issues. I still have like things to overcome. I am very consumed by the present, as I mentioned before, and to a fault, because it's important for you to live your life and for you to be present in things. And I mean, like, the only thing that's been impeding me these days are my fantasies. But even then, like, they're happening at a much slower pace, and they're not really occupying my brain as they used to. So like they are not as challenging as they used to be. But of course, like, it might have to do with this point in time I am at right now, and then things might change. Yeah, things may change when I start to get worse. I'm not saying that I'm expecting that I'm gonna get worse, but it does seem to be the way that things go. I never really had a moment where I was well and I continue to do well endlessly. Always something bad happens, not something bad happens, but like something changes in my psyche, and then suddenly I am back to like back in the gutter. The gutter being just me being devoid of interest and investment in my life. And that is a good way, that is like a good definition of gutter, because ultimately what fucks up my life all around is that my head losing track of what's important, not losing track of what's important, but like no longer caring, because it's not like I that I don't see what is relevant. It's just that it doesn't matter to me. I'm like numbed to all those things, and I don't know if I'm heading in this direction. Usually when I might be in that direction, I might be more contemplative. Once again, I don't know if that's a word. More introspective, and as a consequence, I may say more. I think that I get more thinking, more. I start thinking more. I get more thoughtful of certain things when I'm depressed, and maybe that's what is happening. When I'm manic too, I have like many theories and many things to say. Sometimes not so much, but when I'm depressed, that's when things they really they take a toll on me. And as a consequence, I have a lot to say. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's just weakness, and just me laying down and having no energy and no will of my own, no volition. But I think maybe it might be a thing of degrees. Like when I'm normal and I start going low down, low up, and that's pretty much when things when things kind of like happen, when things start to affect me. But yeah, but what I wanted to say is that I feel like I am less introspective, and it seems like a bad thing, but like at least if the reason that I'm less introspective is because I have been able to fix the things I have that have been plaguing me, and therefore I've already solved them. So there's no need for me to start contemplating about why we are the way that we are, and when we are kind of like stuck to our ways, because I've been able to break free from my ways. So there's that. Also, but at the same time, like, I'm not a perfect person, so there's like a lot that like for me to change is still about myself, for me to improve. But it's just that it doesn't feel like an urgent improvement thing. It doesn't feel like I need that. It feels like I'm I don't know. It feels like I think it's that I don't want to change. That is the kind of like the issue when I am when I am like basking in my depression. I don't want to change, because changing because usually I don't want anything, and changing will involve me wanting things, and I don't want that. I just want the end. And it's very fatalistic, I know, but it is the way my brain works, and it is maybe like right now is the right time for me to break free from that, because right now I'm still attached to life. I'm still trying to to live, and I still have things that I want to get done. So like this is the ideal moment for me to just tackle that fatalistic and nihilistic way that I approach my life when I'm depressed. Because right now, yeah, like right now is the time, because if I think if I get any deeper, I will start to embrace my state, and I want to change. I think that is my biggest challenge as far as like me as a person, like what do I have to overcome regarding myself, is not embracing death like so quickly, not wanting to jump into that so quickly, and or at all. Maybe it's not just quickly, it's just like at all. I don't need it's not ideal for me to be so detached. But how exactly do I fix that? Because a part of me already wants to embrace it. The other part is still tied to life and wants to keep going. But like it's just the similar voices, and they all have equal. That thing, they have like an equal voice. Because I think that the downer, even if like they have the same level of relevance, like the downer is always going to be heavier. So there's always going to be something bringing it down. It's like gravity, right? So like something can just stay like this. Like there's something pulling it down. But yeah, so I think that is my biggest flaw at this point in time. And but that's the thing, like it doesn't even feel like so as heavy as other flaws I've had. It didn't feel like it was really, because like this particular level of detachment, it brings with it a certain level of peace. Like there is a level of like there is this, maybe not peace, but like there's this stillness to that satisfying, while a lot of the other things I've had to avoid, they have this chaotic nature to them. So like they're just hectic, and I have to like calm them down and do something about them, because like otherwise like I'm gonna go insane. And this one is just bringing, as I said, stillness, so it feels peaceful and it feels enjoyable from like a distance. And even like as you start to getting closer, it's still like you're basking in your own despair, but it's still peaceful. It's still it's still calm. Yeah, that's the word, calm, quiet. And like that is appealing. My brain is very hectic all the time. Like I'm very energetic, so I'm always like all over the place doing all sorts of things. So the type of peacefulness is welcome. It's a welcome addition, and it's kind of like a tyrant luring me in, because by the time I get I'm already too involved, it's too late. By the time I realize I'm too involved, it's too late for me to do anything about it. I'm already too invested, too involved. But yeah, but I think that is ultimately the thing that I have to kind of like tackle about me. Maybe I'm gonna have some videos about me, like talking about this and rationalizing it. Yeah, because there's a lot of rationalization when I was younger. So maybe right now it's also better that I'm rationalizing less. I'm more straightforward when it comes to dealing with issues. I'm more straightforward when accepting that they're bad for me. I'm not rejecting, but that's the thing, like even if I accept something's bad for me, it doesn't mean that I am kind of like I'm not cutting it loose. Sometimes I'm still keeping it around, and that is really bad. because it is infectious. So like I may start just being embracing the peace, the serenity, and then before I realize it is occupying my whole brain. So there's that. And also I think maybe my illness, I have ADHD. For the longest time I thought that I was a lazy person, but then I realized that that's not the case. You just have to find ways you basically treat yourself, and then you can kind of like live a normal life just like everybody else. But sometimes there are still some hints of stuff that is not laziness, but like it's just tiredness, and we breathe like that. So but it gets in the way of like me doing things, so I don't want to do things because they don't make sense, because I'm tired, because what's the point, there's all sorts of things. I think this is also rooted in the whole thing, the first issue. Once I deal with the first issue, then the second issue, it is way less pressing, because ultimately it goes back to what's the point. Like, why am I not doing this thing, why am I doing this thing, why should I do this thing, it goes back to that. So yeah, I have to tackle that as well. But I think that for me to tackle the second issue, I have to tackle the first issue of things not making sense, which has to do with like me being attached to the end. And what's the point of wasting time and effort in this when I could be doing something else that's more enjoyable, and that's going to bring me like right now, going to make me feel better, and like I'm almost leaving this plane of existence. So I'm kind of like saying goodbye, and I'm sticking to this moment where I'm saying goodbye. So yeah, that's kind of it. Bye.